God loves to snatch good from horrible situations. Are you ready for some good news? God doesn't author evil or needless suffering, but He uses both for your good and for His glory. It was from prison that Paul wrote to the Philippian Christians and said, I want you to know, brothers, that what's happened to me has really served to advance the gospel so that it's become known throughout the whole imperial guard. And he says, even to the rest of his imprisonment, it's all for the glory of Christ, he says in Philippians chapter 1. Paul has suffered from riot, persecution, shipwreck, false accusation, multiple incarcerations, and he's writing to the Philippians while he's under house arrest in Rome. But the apostle saw good in it. He was encouraged. The gospel was being advanced. There's no blur between good and bad. God is all good all the time, but in this world we'll face trouble, bad things. And we can take heart because God is so big and so wonderful that He sovereignly seizes hold of the circumstances wrought by evil and redeems them for His good purposes. I think often, some years ago, our church was sued by our neighbors because they had fears of our facility expansion, and it was a painful time. There was no substance to their case, but nonetheless, our church spent $600,000 defending ourselves. It sapped church resources and energy during a time of expansion when we most needed our efforts advancing the gospel. And I just hated the lawsuit. I hated the time. I rejoiced when it was all over. But you know what? Something marvelous happened. During that year and a half of battle, our congregation drew near to the Lord and drew near to each other. The elders grew in courage and spiritual insight, and the congregation became unified in an unprecedented way that has endured and has borne expansive, unending spiritual fruit. Our church has grown and flourished since that. It's just an example of how the gospel got advanced in the middle of a hardship. The gospel went further because of the lawsuit. Now, the Bible doesn't teach that we should deny our adversities. Whether lawsuits or pandemics, they're really hard. We don't deny it. We can be honest and direct and accepting of life's adversities, but we must put it in its place. Suffering is still under God's sovereign care, and it means that God can use the wrongful imprisonment of Paul or the wrongful suit against a church or your current adversity to bring about the advancement of the gospel for His purposes in your life and in the world. And that's the gospel. Well, that's today's good news, and you can get more like it by just clicking right here and get other videos. Or better yet, if you haven't done so, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can be sure and start out every day with good news.